Ready?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay, all right. Well, let's go ahead and get started. Do we have any public comment?
We do.
It's been a while.
Mary can come up.
Welcome, you know the routine.
I'm here to ask for some support for teachers to be able to do the job that they were hired to do and for what is the very existence of Grand Rapids Public Schools, teaching and learning. You heard about some of the activities the district is doing for the third grade readers, and I'd like to offer some additional supports with reducing class size. There is a lot of research out there, but so I kind of thumbed through the class size recommendations for urban students and found even at the University of Michigan, the public policy initiative from 2016 said that the risk of larger classes in Michigan is not evenly distributed across race, economic level, or urbanicity.
That's a word.
Yeah, I know. Black ninth graders are over 3 times as likely as their white peers to be in large classes. Students who receive meal subsidies are 60 to 70% more likely to be in large classes than their peers not receiving subsidies. Nearly 1 in 4 ninth graders in urban districts are in classes of 40 or more, while only 1 in 50 students in rural districts find themselves in such classes. This is just Michigan. So in Michigan, students who find themselves in a 40-plus class are usually urban, high poverty, on some meal subsidies, Black or Latino, and the lowest achieving students are 2 times more likely than their higher achieving peers to be in large 40-plus classrooms. So the academic literature strongly supports the common sense notion that class size is as an important determinant of students' outcomes. Class size reductions have shown to improve a variety of measures ranging from contemporaneous test scores to later in life outcomes such as college completion. Class size is an important determinant of student outcomes and one that can be directly influenced by policy. All else being equal, increasing class sizes will harm student outcomes. The evidence suggests that increasing class size will harm not only students' test scores on the short run, but also their long-term human capital formation. Money saved today by increasing class sizes will often be offset by more substantial social and educational costs in the future. The payoff for class size reduction is larger for low-income and minority students, while any increases in class size will likely be most harmful to these same populations. So we know that reducing class size in early grades is associated with better test scores, better long-term outcomes, and it helps. Any sort of reduction helps, even if the class sizes remain large. And class sizes make an even bigger difference for experienced teachers. That was interesting. Experienced teachers, because they have a lot of other skills, can make better use of that smaller class size than new teachers who are starting to figure out what they're doing. The other things that I came up with from what I hear from and what I know is that a smaller class size would reduce negative behaviors and the safety issues for teachers. It would reduce the referrals for interventions. It increases the opportunity to build relationships with the students and with their parents, and it increases the engagement behavior of the students in the classroom. So what I did was looked at specifically the K through 3 class sizes in Grand Rapids, and it's a snapshot. I get a report from the district. And I focused on K3 because that was the focus on Monday at the board meeting, and I wanted to give you some of the highlights. Our collective bargaining agreement says that K2 classrooms should be limited to 25 students, and 3 through 6 is at 27. So I had to throw those both in there because it included their grade. So when I went through the number of sections, how many classes of K-3 classrooms there are in buildings, I found that campus elementary, 6 of the 9 K-3 classes are overloaded with more students than our contract. So 67% of the classes in that building have more than our class size numbers. The highest is a 3rd grade classroom with 33. Brookside had 3 of 7 for 43%. Their highest was 30. MLK had 3 of 7 for 43%. I've got all these statistics. The ones that were really stunning to me was one at Dickinson. There's only one class that's over the class size, and it's a kindergarten class, and it has 34 students in it. There are 8 of them with IEPs, and there are multiple students with behavior plans that are also taking up. And I believe the teacher does have some part-time para support. I don't know how she turns around in the room. One of her kids is in a wheelchair, so it's a challenge to get to those students. And again, thinking about the future of what those kids are supposed to be expected to do by the time they're in 3rd grade, I'm concerned for those students. I'm also concerned for that teacher who's a 2nd or 3rd year teacher. Will she stay in the district? So retention of staff would be another benefit, I think, of getting class sizes down to something that's workable. It's much easier to teach 20 students than it is to teach 30, especially in the environment and the urbanicity that we have in Grand Rapids. There were 8 buildings that did not have those, so you're not going to hear my recommendations? Okay, I'll see.
You want to, you're welcome to share that with us.
Okay, so the state requires that.
Meaning
Yeah, just
Right
if you
now?
could just go ahead and if you can just summarize it real quick.
Okay.
Yeah.
GSRP preschool classrooms are limited to 16 with 2 adults. So that's where the kids are coming from if they've gone to GSRP. The Center for Public Education think tank for the National School Board Association suggests 18 students per classroom in primary classes. And Russ Walsh, who's a retired administrator and author, recommends for urban and poverty districts that K2 be 17 to 19, 3 through 8 be 20 to 22, and 9 through 12 be 23 to 25.
Thank you very much.
There's lots more to come.
For sharing
but
that.
is that what
I
we have?
appreciate this.
All
It's
right.
really good information for
Are you
us.
going to give copies of that for us?
I can put it together. Sure.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have instructional council update?
Yep, so good afternoon, Dr.
Okay.
Baker, Reverend Matthias, Ms. Downs Lewis, and Ms. Davis. My name is Jonathan Harper. I'm the Director of Curriculum, and I just want to introduce kind of the rest of the agenda for the day. So we do have Laura Morrison. She's the co-chair of Instructional Council, so she'll be providing the update from the previous meeting.
I'm going to stand. I'm having some back issues. I
Oh,
don't
I'm
think I'll be
sorry.
able to sit down again. Well, I'm Laura Morrison, been here 28 years. I've co-chaired several times, and Pat Regan always came and did the presentations. Kind of missing her. But I wanted to let you know, in October we did not meet, but coming up we have, let's see, Special Ed Department is going to bring a new productive health curriculum proposal to us, and we have someone who's going to try and pilot a special Spanish course for 7th and 8th grade. We have some update curriculum coming to us in this month. Our next meeting is scheduled for the 21st at MLK from 1 to 3. And that's as short and sweet as I can make it for you.
Thank you.
Unless you have any questions.
No, thank you
Okay,
very much.
thank you.
All right. So next on our agenda, we have 2 scheduled reports for the Academic Achievement Committee. The first one is around college and career readiness, and then the second is an overview of my school data. Steve Petros has been great assistance and is going to help provide those reports for the Academic Achievement Committee today.
So I just want to the rest of the committee, met with Jonathan and Superintendent Gorman to discuss this particular topic, and I think that since we began this conversation, I've had different people approach me about issues related to college and career readiness. So I think that I'd like to spend, a couple meetings, so we won't probably exhaust the topic today, but we'll get introduced to at least some of the issues, and then I'd like to then at the end discuss what we should do in subsequent meetings and how many meetings we should spend on it. But I'd like to at least do December as well.
Do you want to switch chords?
Is it possible to get it together?
Just next year. Having a little bit of a connection.
It's a little temperamental. Kind of keeps
We
flashing.
can see
out.
it right now.
Can you see it on this screen?
Yeah, we
Yes.
can.
Oh,
Well, it's
okay.
flashing right now, but
It's off behind you.
sometimes when you have a, like, yeah.
I do have Air Parrot. Do you want to use that?
Let's see if we can connect with Air Parrot. That might be better.
Okay. It's not picking up. Test unit 1. Admin auditorium.
All right.
There we go.
Hopefully we have this now. It's not flickering.
Yeah, I think so. Can you see it? There's nothing.
Just end
This-
this. I would say just go through your slides and pull them up.
Okay. Can you see the slides here?
Nope, not anymore. But it's not blinking and causing us to.
Your cursor, you see your cursor?
Yeah.
See here.
Yeah, the cursor is there. Yeah.
End the show.
Maybe duplicate.
Can you send it to our email?
Yeah, I think you already have it.
All right.
So, project.
Why is it not projecting?
My phone down or something.
There's no signal. Do you see anything different?
No, we're okay right now. It's just that there's this, if we can do this for a half hour.
Where are you going?
Oh, I just have to go
Do
home.
we have a tech person available?
That's Steve.
I'll try your device.
Just send me that.
You get the same email to you? Let's pull up your email.
Apologize for the delay.
You apologize for that sticker on the back of your computer too?
They're a good partner with us.
Of course.
Are you disconnected? Yeah.
You can do air parrot, and you can.
It's logging in.
Okay. I'll keep trying this.
Can't you just duplicate your displays on that? It's connected.
Yeah, I don't see what the conflict is. Because strangely, it's showing these things right here. It's not showing this.
Because you got your desktop extended instead of a duplicate display.
Do you know how to fix that?
Materials. You know, just regular. Fly over us. In my car.
It's there. It's Metro.
Oh, fantastic. Okay. Don't breathe.
Don't breathe. Thank you for your patience.
Okay.
Thank you for the invitation and the opportunity to be here. My name is Steve Petros, and I serve as an assessment specialist in the Office of Assessment and Evaluation. And what I'd like to do this afternoon is just spend a little bit of time walking through kind of college and career readiness, and then a shift to My School Data, the public-facing site that is just a huge repository of data for all public consumers to access and use at their convenience. So to begin on kind of the college and career readiness note, I want to start with a more narrow lens or more narrow scope through the eyes of the College Board. The College Board is the organization that provides us with the SAT assessment for grade 11, but more so really for the suite of assessments that begins in grade 8 with our PSAT 8 and 9, and essentially all of our students in grades 8 through 11 take a College Board assessment in the fall and also in the spring. The spring tests are mandated through MDE. We just completed our 4th season with the College Board and the SAT and their suite of assessments. You might recall prior to that, we were actually using the ACT. But at that time, the state decided not to renew that contract. They shifted to the redesigned SAT through the College Board, and we've been going with that ever since. So narrowly, in the eyes of the College Board, they consider college readiness, or when a student to be college and career ready, when they meet both of the benchmarks on their 2 subject tests, meaning mathematics and then evidence-based reading and writing. On the mathematics side, they believe that when a student scores at least a 530 scale score, then they are college and career ready in mathematics. On the evidence-based reading and writing side, at least a 480 to be college and career ready. So what does that mean? In their eyes, or through their research, they believe that with those 2 benchmark scores, a student would have at least a 75% chance of earning at least a C or better in their first semester credit-bearing college course. So on the math side, we're talking about algebra, stats, pre-calc or calc. On the evidence-based reading and writing side, we're looking at history, lit, social sciences, and writing. A key phrase I want to bring to your attention is credit-bearing. So we're talking not about so much the remedial courses. Sometimes we hear conversations around students Pelling out, where they burn through their Pell Grant funds before they even fully can get immersed in credit-bearing courses. So the College Board is talking about a 75% chance of a C or better in a credit-bearing college course. However, we also certainly want to talk about, or at least address the issue of what is college readiness, or what's college for that matter, because it's really a continuum. And while students might score below these two benchmarks in math and evidence-based reading and writing, they can certainly be on the continuum or successful in college, especially through appropriate preparation, supports, and of course, perseverance. I mean, we could also talk about like what is college. Certainly, we're familiar with institutions ranging locally from Grand Rapids Community College all the way to the University of Michigan. But also, I think it's important to think about some more specialty programs, apprenticeship programs, and just kind of the wider spectrum of post-secondary options for our students. Another piece to bring to the conversation is that there's certainly a lot to be read and learned about GPAs serving as a better predictor of college success than standardized test scores or standardized exams. Standardized tests such as the SAT tend to really anchor more on content knowledge and cognitive skills, but they don't address, or they don't really allow a student to show or to shine with respect to their non-cognitive skills. Anything from non-academic skills, social emotional learning, a plethora of soft skills, and then just kind of behaviors having to do with self-control or tenacity, time management, problem solving. Those really don't come to light through a standardized testing process. And certainly that's a huge factor in a student's success in a post-secondary institution, regardless of where it is or what type of a program it might be. So here in GRPS, looking from the balcony at the entire district, and this is our 4th year with the SAT, this is the breakdown by subject and overall in terms of the proportion of our students that are deemed or identified as college ready in the eyes of the College Board. For evidence-based reading and writing, roughly 2 out of 5 students are considered college and career ready. On the math side, a little more than 1 out of 5. And I will share with you that it is a higher bar on the math side. So you notice that the proportion of students that are considered college and career ready for math at 22.9% is pretty close to the total score. And by total, what the College Board means is the student has met the benchmarks in both subjects, in both evidence-based reading and writing and in mathematics. Since math tends to have a higher bar, if a student meets the benchmark in math, more than likely they'll have met it in both subjects.
Yeah, so obviously very few students that didn't meet the math requirement.
Right.
Didn't meet so.
Right. And this is our 4th year with this test. Although we're looking at 22.1 based on spring of 19, I'll share with you also that in the first 2 years, meaning 16 and 17, we were hovering at right around 20-ish. And then a year ago, we were at like 23-ish, 24, somewhere in there. And then we slipped about 1 percentage point. Not much.
The first one there, the
Evidence-based reading and writing. Yeah, reading.
Do they have to write? Because, you know, in the old days,
there's an essay portion.
They have to do a composition for the test?
There's an essay portion, yes, there's part of it. Mm-hmm.
On this, so I just want to clarify the score. When this is reported, college readiness and GRPS, this is when they take the state test in the spring. This
Correct.
does not
And this is
account
only
for students that are GRPS students that go back and take it later and improve their
Correct.
scores.
So this is, think of it as the MME.
Right.
It's the official MDE mandated, accountability anchored summative assessment that our students take the week after spring break. And this is reporting only on our 11th graders.
Yeah.
Although honestly, 8th, 9th, 10th, and 11th grade students take a College Board test.
And they only take it once a year?
It's mandated by the state in the spring, but we also administer it in the fall. So for example, just about 3 weeks ago, these students took it through a contract between GRPS and the College Board. So they experience it in school in the fall and in school mandated by the state in the spring.
That's the junior year.
All,
And then
all four.
All 4, okay, so they're
8, 9,
taking
10.
Freshmen
so
will
that
take it again in the spring, the kids who just took it.
PSAT.
PSAT.
They will.
yeah.
They will. Another just note about the College Board, beginning last year, our 8th graders used the PSAT 8-9 for their accountability test in the spring. So they no longer take the M-STEP, they take the College Board PSAT 8-9.
Okay.
But we also have data from the ACT, the experience already prior to switching of our students not being college ready. So we have a plethora of data that our students were already not meeting college readiness. Obviously, we switched to SAT, but so I'm just wanting to understand how we're taking that information with these 4 years of added information from SAT, and where is it getting us? What have we learned, and what are we implementing, given that we already knew our students were underachieving, we're not college ready. What are we doing?
Well, just a clarification, the ACT had a slightly different definition of college readiness as well. It was a different test, and then back in roughly 2013, 14, 15, the College Board completely redesigned their SAT. So I'm hesitant to compare the results on those two because they're different tests. They measure different things. They were designed differently. I would much rather look at the historical results from this test over the past 4 years. I feel more comfortable with that.
And I'd like to add another distinction. So, and this is going to sound like I'm not giving this the weight it deserves, because I think this deserves a lot of weight and we should have these numbers higher. But this is a college readiness indicator that the College Board has set.
Yes.
It doesn't necessarily mean that students aren't college ready. So I know lots of students that score below those numbers that get into college.
Right.
You know,
Thank you.
And again, the SAT score, the average GPA score is a better predictor of success.
It is. It is. Just something else to note to you. This was emailed to you Friday, Monday?
This is emailed to me. I don't think the rest of the committee.
We never got it.
Two things I want to share. Number one, my mistake, I transposed the evidence-based reading and writing and the math percentages. So in your file, they're flipped. My mistake. This is correct. And also the link in the lower right corner is a live link, and it will take you right to the My School Data site so you can look at these yourself, just so you know. This graphic shows our enrollment rate for our grads into post-secondary institutions over the past 4 years. This is through our 2018 grads. I will share with you that we've submitted our file to the National Student Clearinghouse for our 2019 grads, and we should have that within probably a month or so. But as you can see, broadly speaking, half of our students, half of our graduates move on to a post-secondary institution, meaning either a traditional 4-year or a traditional 2-year institution. This does not include apprenticeship programs or specialty programs. We don't have a way of capturing those at this point in time. This is coming exclusively from the National Student Clearinghouse. So roughly
Like 50% of our kids go to 4-year colleges or 47.
roughly half of our students go to a post-secondary institution. Roughly of that 50%, roughly half are going to a 2-year institution, GRCC, and the other 25% of the total pool is going to a 4-year institution.
And look at all. Look at it right. Thank you.
But again, I think it's important to note that we don't know what proportion of our students are going on to other post-secondary institutions besides these more traditional sites.
So then this data, if you looked at, this is also similar to what's happening statewide. That this data, so I spent a lot of time with this data, and the Two College, Through College looks at it. So there has been a declining enrollment overall of students, and that number was as high as 60% at one time. But there's lots of factors, including the economy.
The state rate was on the 60%?
No, GRPS's rate at one point was
Post-secondary,
second.
60%.
And if you add the number of students that go to school in the year following, so meaning that they also, if you count the ones that go into school the spring semester rather than the fall semester, then that number goes up closer to 55%. So,
And even the second year.
Yeah.
So one of the key phrases in this slide title is immediately after high
Right.
school. It's the fall after high school.
So, half to 60% of our students are going to college within a year or so of graduation.
Right.
So,
And if you want those numbers in terms of second semester or within 12 months after graduation or 2 years, we can provide those too. We have them.
And another thing that's pointed about this, that means that they're also accepted into colleges. You know, even though those college readiness numbers were lower.
Right.
Yeah, I think it is important to, for us to, and it sounds like you're being intentional about, I hate to say tracking, but really understanding where our students are going in order to better both serve them and then understand how we're doing after our students graduate and how they're reporting back to us where they're going after.
And we do have that information
Okay.
too. We can actually provide a list of the institutions in rank order by enrollment and by graduation cohort in terms of, to answer your question, where are our students going? We can tell you how many 2018 grads went to GRCC versus GVSU or Western or MSU or U of M or any other institution in the state. We can provide that.
Awesome.
In fact, you can actually find that yourself on My School Data, and if time allows, I'll show you. This slide just breaks down, again, from a district level, from the balcony, the proportion of students by ethnicity that were identified as college and career ready in the eyes, or by definition, by the College Board. By subject, evidence-based reading and writing, and math, and then overall. So the first column matches the previous slide. The next 4 columns just provide a breakdown by ethnicity. Once again, you can see that by and large, if a student or if a group of students hits the benchmark in mathematics, they're going to be considered college and career ready overall. This slide takes a little bit of a step away from college and career readiness. This is actually showing our ethnicity breakdown by high school. It shows kind of the diversity within not only our system, but also within our individual schools as well. Looking at the bottom line, the district, and then kind of comparing that to our high schools. No one high school, I think, truly mirrors our district averages. I would guess that probably C.A. Frost most closely represents the district, but certainly not entirely so. Our next slide.
Okay, so this is the ethnic breakdown of
Yeah.
each high school, okay.
And again, for the file that was shared with you, the link in the lower right corner is a live link. It goes right to My School Data so that you can look at this further and dig into it and tear it apart.
Well, no, this should be posted, on Board Docs. Yeah, it's not on Board Docs currently,
No.
so we need to make sure that
Yeah, I
happens,
just checked and it wasn't, so.
Yeah. And Dr. Baker, I can share a revised file with you that has the correction from the first slide.
Yeah, well, if I can just get the one off Board Docs, yeah.
This next table displays the breakdown by economically disadvantaged versus non, and English learners versus non as well. The bottom line in bold underline represents the district. And again, no single school truly mirrors the district, but probably the one that most closely reflects the district would be Grupa. Certainly not exactly so, but compared to the pool of 6 schools, it's probably the closest of the set. So next I'd like to kind of pivot and give you a tour of My School Data. But before I do so, do you have any questions about college readiness or the College Board or any of these past couple slides before I do a little pivot to My School Data?
Is there, on My School Data, would it be easy for me to find comparisons for districts?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Anything related to college readiness indicators or colleges? I think that there's some questions I want to have about how to improve college readiness, but we can do that at the end of the, any other questions about the college readiness
We can find out.
data that just relates to what it means, what we're doing? I think, John, you're getting at some
Yeah. I mean,
concerns about what do we do about it?
What do we do,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
And then just the other thing is if the College Board is giving us support what supports are they providing us, given our makeup, other than providing us the test?
Sure. So the College Board has a formal partner in the Khan Academy. So that resource,
In what, I'm sorry?
Khan Academy, KAHN, and that resource not only provides a wide and deep bank of instructional videos, but also practice problems, and does provide practice tests as well. So students could actually take any of these College Board tests, retired or older
Most
tests.
teenagers love to be asked to do that.
They
yeah,
do.
so.
You better sit there and do it. That's-
Yeah, it's like, that's, it becomes a long, I've done that.
I can't pull this up here and it won't display. Sorry, we're having more technical issues.
I think part of what I would like to know in what we are doing about this is how are we educating parents as to what this is and what it indicates? Because I feel like I'm well aware that there's a lot more that decides if a student is prepared for college than just this test. But I think a lot of people in the community look at this and they're like, our kids aren't going to be able to manage in college. So what are we doing to educate the community as to what exactly this is telling us?
Right, I think that it's really tough when you get in a position of then, what we just did is like, well, this doesn't really mean college ready, then it sounds like we're discounting the, you know, the efforts that we
Yeah.
need to make towards
And I
improving
don't mean
it.
to discount
Yeah.
it, but I think with knowledge, you get a greater understanding of the fact that there are more things involved
Right.
in the success of a student.
To be honest, I wouldn't mind, this needs to go on the, on board docs and be available for public, but, you know, I'm almost like subsequent. So this should be read ahead of time, right? So this is what it does, but I wouldn't mind being the labels. Can you go through the next slide? I just want to see. This is a really good explanation too. I wouldn't mind saying that at some point, this document refers to the College Board standard indicator of college readiness. Something that says that this is an indicator.
Well-
This is not, you know, a predictor.
And just so you know,
Yeah.
the link, there's two links in the lower right corner. The one that says College Board actually is a link to the College Board site that directly addresses what you just asked for.
Right, except that when public, I mean, so we have people the other night that are questioning our college readiness at the board meeting. I think it's important that we not expect people to go to that link at the bottom right to do that. We need to say this is a college readiness indicator. Something that we need to improve, because I would certainly like, but it doesn't necessarily mean, because the slide that shows that half of our students are getting into college suggests that, and by year two, 60% of our students are in college, which means that they're being accepted to college, which means colleges are expecting them to be able to do the work. And to be honest, I think that from my experience with those who don't succeed their first year or two of college, it's not usually because of their academic preparedness. It's usually other factors that are causing their
Right, some of these
their inability to
non-cognitive ones.
succeed. So their score on the SAT. And to be, you know, we need to do something to improve those math numbers. But for most college students who don't go into a field that has to do with math, they'll only take one or two math classes. Now, the reading numbers, the reading and writing numbers are important because they'll all have to do that. So we're creating this sense that our students aren't college ready. They're really just not achieving the college readiness indicator.
Right. And even when you look at these two benchmarks, this 530 and 1080, when you combine those to get 1010, and then you compare that to the average SAT score for accepted students at the various institutions within, public institutions within our state, you can see that this lands in about the middle. So there's certainly many four-year institutions that have an average SAT score below 1010 for their students.
Right,
some-
but my concern wouldn't be them getting in. My concern would be them being successful in college. So, I mean, colleges want students to come to their school, so they aren't necessarily setting the bar as high as they need to.
Right, although the SAT score doesn't, I mean, some colleges are getting rid of the SAT score. The
Yeah.
college test optional entries because it's just not been, it
No,
becomes a
no,
sorting
it's-
device.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's not really related to how much kids
I
know.
mean, it's somewhat, I mean, I think that this data here shows that students that have these numbers tend to get a C or better.
But I also know that
Yeah.
it's definitely
Yeah,
a
yeah.
social economic thing, because, when my daughter needed more, we just paid for her to go to one of those classes, and, she spent 8 weeks in a class, and then her scores went up. But, that's not everybody has the money, not everybody knew about that. I happen to be a
True.
teacher, and, so it makes a big difference. I think social economic status is more important than this
So
testing. And
I know when the College Board redesigned their SAT and they launched their partnership with the Khan Academy, the Khan Academy is a free resource for all students.
I didn't recognize
doesn't-
it, but I've.
Yeah, it doesn't
I've-
require a subscription or anything that either the district or the child or the family has to pay for. It's free. It's a free partnership. So when that was launched in 2015, one of their big points or motivations was to help level the playing field, to address what you just described.
Then all the more reason why we reach out to our partners and provide that, the Hispanics, and so forth, in regards to whatever grants they're getting to do college readiness at the community level, that we as a district partner with them to get into the nuances of where, if they're not getting it in our schools or following through in our schools, that we leverage our partnerships. Grand Rapids Foundation, I mean, you name it, in terms of helping our parents understand what that means, and then our students to take advantage of the resources that supposedly are available for free to them in order to continue to seek out readiness in that sense. So
It's my experience that most organizations that do after-school or summer supports use the Khan Academy. So the Hispanic Center has students using Khan Academy. WMCAT uses Khan Academy. Most summer programs that I know in the city use Khan Academy. So it is. So I think that sharing has occurred. So I think that we want to explore how we can do more to prepare our students better for college. And I think some of that is understanding what we are doing. Yeah, so.
right.
One side question I'm wondering is, why do they call it college and career ready if it's only based on?
I think part of it is when you enter a career, you're still responsible for learning that content, whatever it might be, an apprenticeship, and there's studying that's going on, and the resources so associated with those apprenticeship or professional paths still require a lot of work. There's heavy reading, there's the application of math and science skills and concepts to the work, and so the students need to be able to engage at a reading comprehension level at some of those manuals and textbooks and resource materials.
But how do we determine if they're going into a career? I mean, we can determine whether or not they're going to college, but
It's a great question,
Yeah.
but at this point in time, I'm not aware of any way that either the districts or the National Student Clearinghouse or the ISDs or the state is tracking who's going into those apprenticeship or
Right.
pre-professional programs.
Even other kinds of programs are
I
not.
understand, it's just we have all that.
Yeah.
data.
And the state is considering changing the merit requirements. So obviously, and the state is interested in career readiness, if not college readiness, but yet the state is getting ready to decide that we don't need these numbers to get into careers. So anyway, we'll have that conversation later.
If we're ready to transition to the walkthrough, I think we're going to switch a device quick, so that way we don't have an issue with that. So, because that way you can do the my school data walkthrough.
So while Jonathan's teeing up my school data, I will just share with you my intent was to to give you a balcony level introduction, like a tour of my school data, but also certainly extend the invitation that if any of you or all of you want to meet after this session at some future date and time to do more of like a hands-on session where we can walk through many more reports and talk about the parameters, we can certainly arrange for that at your convenience.
So this kind of came in conversation with Dr. Gorman and Jonathan. We were like, we kept talking about, well, this data is on my school data, and I was like, well, maybe we should learn how to
I
use
know,
my
I'm
school
very,
data. And then the other thing is
I've
that,
been on it, and I
Yeah.
don't really think it's very user-friendly.
yeah, and so we decided not to do this like a workshop where we would all bring our computers and do that, but we could arrange a workshop type thing, and not just for the four of us, but for the board. Obviously, we can't do it more than 4 at a time, but we could do some workshops that would be useful. So I think that one of the things I'd like to ask you guys is, what should we recommend the rest of the board, us or the rest of the board, do in terms of training on this if we think it's necessary to have a workshop or something afterwards? So we're not going to do workshop today, so we're going to get a tour. So
Okay.
we won't be,
Well, let's see what the tour shows us.
yeah.
So we're gonna, Michigan School Day.
Okay.
I would say that I've used this and it's really useful, but I have learned that it's not something that you do quickly. So it's not like I can look up that one piece of data. that
So
I
maybe I'll
want.
show like maybe just 4 reports in a time frame. What's our timeline
Yeah.
here?
Oh, yeah, 20 to 30 minutes.
Okay. All right. So why don't we just start going through some reports? And to your point, this is a broad and deep resource. Jonathan?
Did we lose it again?
Yes. One thing that my school data added just a couple years ago was a parent transparency dashboard. And that's really, I think, been a wonderful addition because it shows a lot of really pretty easy to understand, easy to interpret infographics for parents and families and community members to use on a wide variety of topics for their community. And by community, it could be the school or it could be the district, but usually at the school level. It will report everything from assessment data to, meaning like proficiency rates on state assessments, to graduation rates, the proportion of students that might be involved with advanced coursework, attendance, EL participation. And what's really nice too is not only is it providing nice infographics for the parent or the reader for their particular school, it gives context in 2 ways. Number one, it provides also the state averages, but I think even better is it will actually create a virtual comparison group of other schools that with a similar profile. So you can compare your neighborhood school per se with a virtual comparison group of other schools across the state that have a similar profile. So you can kind of get a better sense of how does my local school compare to others on a more apples to apples comparison basis. There's information about staff, aggregate level, of course. There's information about kind of how the school is performed with respect to the MDE's school index system from last year or from the 17-18 school year. And what's nice too is you can generate PDFs, you can share them, you can send them. And although not so much in the parent transparency piece, but on some of the other reports, you can export them as data files as well and then manipulate them.
Oh, there we go. Apologize for all of the connection issues we're having today. Can't seem to get the air parent to function. Thank you. All right, let's hope that connection holds. There we go. All right, thank you.
So, parent transparency dashboard. Go dashboard home. And then we can type in, you can type in the name of a school, or you can actually use the map and you can zoom in and find any school that you like. So let's just take one. Take CA Frost, since we mentioned that earlier, is probably the closest representation of the district.
Speaking to the mic a little bit.
Oh, thank you, Jonathan. There we go. So once you find your school, it gives a profile of the school and everything from enrollment to location, services and offerings. And then as you scroll further down, you can look at how the school performs with respect to proficiency, progress towards proficiency. I'm a little surprised that there's no average of similar schools by characteristics on this one. Usually I see those.
Yeah, I have Ottawa Hills in there as.
Okay, I'll switch. Thank you. Whoops. So in these graphics, the green reflects the individual school, the orange reflects the state average, and then the pinkish magenta reflects a similar school average. So they're identifying other schools with similar characteristics, and it's showing how your selected school, in this case Ottawa Hills, is performing on the different performance measures compared to a virtual comparison group. It shows graduation rates, it shows coursework, enrollment, attendance, EL progress. Test participation is always high because it's mandatory, it's required.
What'd you say?
These numbers here.
Okay.
And they're always going to be in the high 90s. I'm not sure why they put it in here.
Especially since there's no
everyone does
variance.
it. Yeah, it's an
like
accountability measure.
What's the post-secondary enrollment? I want to see this. So.
There you go. And if you look,
That's what I noticed there.
yeah. So for like this 47, I think kind of reflects the district average from our earlier slides
Right.
in the high 40s.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you're right.
I'm going to show a few of the reports, and we're going to start.
I like the way that was displayed, actually.
Yeah, it's nice. It's exportable too. So we'll focus on K through 12th grade right now. And we're going to look at student assessment. And you can see that even within this tab, I mean, there's 8 to 10 different options. And then within each of these, there's multiple options as well. We can start with the grades 3 through 8 assessment. So think of this as the M-STEP assessment. And we can look at performance level. And then we just filter from state level data, and you can pull up the entire state, or you can narrow your filter as finely as you'd like to. Notice it's already defaulting to the last school that we looked at. We can choose anyone here. I'm going to go with Aberdeen.
My favorite school.
All right.
But
School
nobody's
year,
there anymore.
18,
so
19.
it's okay.
We'll go with M-STEP. We can choose all grades compared. We can choose any particular grade. I'll just choose third. We can look at ELA. You can run the report for all students, or you can run it by any subgroup you'd like to. Race, ethnicity, gender, ED, EL, students with disabilities. You can
Okay,
break it down how you'd like.
That is.
The report runs pretty quick. It just takes a couple seconds. It pops up. Just a few things to bring to your attention. This is a snapshot. So right now we're looking at the number of students. I can click on this link here, and it'll flip it to the percentage. I know sometimes in some schools when the numbers are so low, they require a certain number of students to actually report a percentage. We can click on trend data. That'll break it down by not proficient, partially proficient, proficient, and advanced. As you scroll down the page, it'll give you the hard numbers and the entity breakdown by state, by ISD, by district, and by school, so you can make some comparisons. You can generate this report and produce it as a PDF, share it that way, or you can actually export it as an Excel file, and then you can manipulate the data as you wish. But again, this is all publicly
Which grade
reported
did you
data.
choose on this?
I chose third.
So that's all this, there's only,
I'm noticing some asterisks in here too. They probably got just a small number of students.
so there's only one third grade classroom at Aberdeen?
At Aberdeen, yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
There might have been a split. Or maybe it was a first, second split, I think, yeah.
Back under the K through 12th grade tab, we can look at college readiness. We can look at the district for this one. We're narrowing down to Kent ISD, to our district. You can choose any individual school. I think one of you asked that question earlier, could you compare schools? Or look at all districts, all schools in the district. You can choose your year. I'm choosing the most recent year. You can choose your subject. I'll go with evidence-based reading and writing. And again, you can either choose all students or any subgroup that you wish. And here's the trend data. Pretty flat for the past 4 years. And as we scroll down, this number is right here, the 38.9 is the same one that was reflected in our earlier slide for the district.
And from this slide, can you do comparison statewide? Does it?
We can edit the report. You can add a comparison location.
Oh, okay. Is that to
You
statewide?
can even do a
Okay.
keyword search. I don't know if I can do state.
This is interesting. It says all ISDs in the state,
Oh,
so you
yeah.
might be able
Let's see. Yeah, we gotta choose one.
The add comparison location had statewide, if you want to go back to that one.
I did.
What's this
to see that.
Bethany-based school?
That had that one.
What's
Let's
that?
see.
Bethany-based school.
To the left of the drop down.
What is, under
Oh, I see.
elementary
Thank
through
you.
high school, it has Bethany-based schools? What is that?
It's one of our former sites.
I'm sorry?
It's one of our former sites.
Former, okay.
Actually,
We
No, it's
still,
still
we
active.
still
It's
have
still active.
students.
My
There are
mistake.
students at Bethany. We have students that live there, and then that we have teachers that teach courses at Bethany.
Oh, it's a, okay.
oh, I just removed
Is
that.
it Lighthouse or no?
No, that's not.
No.
What is it? They just opened a new.
An it's a
extension.
Yeah, it's-
alternative high school.
It's
Refugee.
mostly, it's middle and high school, middle school mostly up to
Okay.
6th through 8th.
Okay.
Is that connected?
I'm going to show you a student growth report now.
Okay.
You can just choose any of these tabs up here. Again, Kent ISD, we'll do all schools in the district. We'll choose a grade. We'll take 4th. So we're looking at student growth from spring of 3rd grade to spring of 4th grade. We can look at ELA and all students. That's student count. I'm going to shift it to the percent of students. So overall for the district, a 42.5 mean student growth percentile. So of all the students in the district, for each student, when their growth is compared to other students statewide that started in the same place on the test, say in 3rd grade, and look at their growth from 3rd to 4th, collectively, all of our 4th graders demonstrated a mean growth percentile at 42.5. I believe average growth is defined between the 40th and 60th. This is above the 60th.
Oops.
I'm sorry, I got that backwards.
Yeah.
Above average growth is above the 60th. Average, I believe, is 40th to 60th, and below average is below the 40th. And then as you scroll down, you can get the breakdown. And you can scroll further to look at the mean student growth percentile for all schools within the district. So I can scroll through, and you can see in the second column the name of every single one of our schools.
So then when you can then see schools that are doing really well.
Right.
With
And-
similar kinds of students.
And you can sort here too. So I sorted the mean student growth percentile, and now you can see by school the mean growth percentile for fourth graders for their third to fourth grade growth.
And that can be done live in site or as an export
Just did
file,
it.
right?
Yep.
Yeah.
Just did it right now. So it was live. Or you can export all this to an Excel file.
Okay.
Let me show you two more here. I want to go to, we talked a little bit about post-secondary. Here's a post-secondary tab. We can look at college enrollment. Actually, we'll look at it by high school. So we can narrow from the Kent ISD to GRPS. We can choose a school. Let's take Grupa. Choose your graduation cohort. 4-year, 2-year, or all. We'll take all and we'll split it up. Within 6 months would indicate immediately after graduation, the fall immediately after.
Okay, so it wouldn't include the January, yeah.
And we can look at all kids. These are the hard numbers, student counts for Grupa. Here are the percentages.
That's what I want to do.
So it looks like 75,
There it is, exactly 75.
75% enroll in either
Yep.
4-year or 2-year colleges.
Kim and I have a question about, are we able to compare our district scores to Kentwood or other scores?
absolutely.
Where do we find that then?
I'll go to edit the report. I'm going to change school to all schools. I can choose a comparison location. I'm going to do a search for Kentwood. They're also in Kent County, all schools in their district. So these first two bar graphs are showing a comparison for 4-year. The third and fourth bar graphs are showing a comparison for community colleges. And the fifth and sixth are showing a comparison for all schools, all colleges, 2-year and 4-year institutions.
So this is all high schools.
District to district.
District-wide.
Okay.
And then if you scroll down further, you can actually look at the college types by district, and you could sort any of these columns as well. So I think I'll pause there. And again, this is just a small sampling of all the reports available within the site. If any or all of you would like to reconnect, to go through a more hands-on session, we could all have our own devices. We'd be more than happy to do that for you at your convenience. Just let us know.
As a group, you mean like the whole group?
Yeah, how do you think, I'm trying to think of, it's really useful, even though I've used this, it sounds like all of us have used it at some point. It's still hard.
I have used it, but to me, it's just not easy for me to get around. Maybe it's just me, I don't know.
No, it's not. When I've used it, I've usually, somebody's asked me a question, I want to find the answer, and 12 minutes later, I'm like, I got to move on. And so,
There's a lot.
But even as we do this, there's stuff that I do that would be nice. I think that when we have public comment, that questions, we can go to this data and, or at least refer people to this data. But how would you guys do you think it's something that we should, I mean, to some extent, I wouldn't mind spending
I want to
an
do
hour
it,
with
yeah.
this and request it to happen at not like a board retreat. That way,
It happen
all
at
of
a
us, that
retreat
way
or at a
we can
workshop.
all go through this at once, but we won't have a board retreat again for
Yeah.
probably in January. And then I don't know what, that president would want to do in that meeting.
And
So,
now with all this stuff on, I mean, could you just set something up and, like
we could.
who
We
wants to
could
do
have,
it?
we could perhaps set, and we could probably offer a
We could probably
workshop.
Co-design an agenda.
Yeah, and then if it happens outside of a board meeting, which I think it would need to, given our agenda, we would just have to have board members sign up for it, up to 4 members.
Yeah.
Does that sound right, Sharon? As long as it's no more than 4 members, we could have a workshop. It would have to be posted too, right?
Right, and if you're not making any decisions or
Right.
discussing anything, it's
Yeah.
peer information.
Just as another option,
Yeah.
because it's ironic timing, the Macomb ISD, or RISA, is actually doing a tour around the state, providing informational sessions on my school data. And just by coincidence, there is one hosted at the Kent ISD next week.
Really?
So
Do you know anything more about it than just that it's at KISD?
I believe it's the 12th. And I'm not sure if it's a full day session or a half day session, but
Monday? Yeah.
We can provide that
yeah,
information.
we can send that to you if you'd like to.
Yeah, I think, in terms of,
It's Tuesday, yeah.
Oh,
yeah, in terms of just, questions that we would have, I would think, as board members would have around, our comprehensive high schools, innovations high schools, and so forth, and how we're looking forward in terms of growth and understanding, some of the data comparisons, so that we can, especially in terms of planning, let's say for Ottawa Hills and what's coming up with some of the changes there, the kind of programming or class size,
Yeah.
other kinds of relevant questions,
And I-
design-wise, that we might have or consider.
And I'm interested in like comparing Westwood to Museum or UPrep or one of these other places because somebody mentioned to me after the meeting last night, the other night, that, that Westward, nobody pays any attention to Westwood. Well, I want to know if, I want to know class sizes, I want to know social economic, I want to know success rates.
Some of this is just us spending time with it. So I think that in terms of we should invite, I don't know, Jonathan, could you get something out to
Yep.
invite the board to this Macomb County one? And then maybe in that message, if you could ask Julie to see if board members are interested in a
workshop.
My School Data workshop if they can't make that.
Yep,
Well, there's no reason to schedule if people
certainly.
aren't interested. I mean, for myself, I feel like I just need to spend more time with it,
Yeah,
And
that's what
I
I'm
can
thinking.
usually get the data I need.
Not
How-
like you need.
So,
Yeah,
so a
that's-
couple of things that are on board docs too, just for your reference. So this is loaded on board docs to my knowledge. And then we also provided two just simplified documents. So there's a quick start guide for those of you that would like just kind of an assistance on how to click through some of the things that Steve described. And then there's one kind of a 2-sided document that comes from My School Data. It's pretty much just a descriptor, like what is the purpose of this site? What is the intended audience of the site? So there's some basic information on there if you would like to spend some
And
time
that's
on your
on
own
board docs.
Yeah,
navigating.
that's what you just said.
Yeah, but where do I get to it then?
From this meeting's agenda.
All right, okay.
Yeah, it's on,
Yeah,
it's
just
on.
click on our agenda, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I don't see it down there, but.
So, thanks. I would like to, in terms of questions for topics for future meetings.
Yep.
I mentioned earlier that I'd like to do more kind of diving into the issue of college readiness overall, not just the indicator, and what the board can do, collaboration, dual enrollment. A second question that I'd like to discuss is where the board, where the GRPS is at on the conversations about whether or not the state changes the requirements for Algebra 2 and other courses, and what impact that would have on these scores. And then I probably have a list of other things that I can discuss when I meet with Jonathan
And I would
and
like-
Ron. So what else would you like?
I would
Yeah.
like to have some more information about our equity work. You know, I know we had a report last year, or the year before.
Certainly.
And maybe discipline, behavior, those kinds of things. Where are the problems? What can we do? What should we be doing to address that?
Yeah, we did have a report saying that something was coming, and maybe an update on
What came?
what they landed on.
Yeah.
You know, what
Yeah.
programming or what
Because this whole
actual.
bullying piece, you know, we had something about bullying and,
Yeah, we heard restorative justice and. some
Right.
Emotional people.
Thank you, Steve.
Have they landed on a systematic approach? or
right,
something?
absolutely, yep.
For me, it would be, you know, leveraging the partnerships.
I'll get you tomorrow.
So we're looking at Challenge Scholars, and they've had a period of time at these feeder schools, the Harrisons, the Westwoods, and now they're in Union. And so how have they fared in aiding us in those pieces? And then some of the other partners that actually are providing monies and personnel towards specific endeavors.
So yeah, so that fits with this college, and
Yeah.
I didn't mean to broaden it out to any topic. I'm thinking more like December around college readiness issues, and I think that we can discuss. I think that your issues are important around this. So, what partnerships? I'm certainly interested in partnerships, also higher ed partnerships. Anything else related to the college readiness? So in a way, we're focusing. We spent a couple sessions talking about third grade reading, and now we're going to look at the other end.
Yeah.
I think that's good, but I think the thing is that I want to be on top of what people are complaining about, and one of the things they complain about is kids' behavior. What are we doing about bullying? You know, what are we doing? You know, I mean, I know about the restorative justice. I also want to know about the equity program, because I know we heard all about this program that we have. And someone came and gave a report on it. I want to know where it's going and what's happened to it. And
So in terms of, I mean, this is my thought.
just for Wednesday, or just for December.
December's meeting, right?
Okay.
But I would say that for the Academic Achievement Committee meetings, committee meetings, and then there are other places. So I think that to the extent that if we're discussing, I think that if we get into looking at the college readiness numbers and look at the data that we just saw, we have to be talking about equity, right? Because the disparities were by race and so we're dealing, so to some extent, I think that if we're talking about an issue in Grand Rapids Public Schools, we're always talking about equity.
Well, and we have to look at what kinds of resources are going to these schools. Is it true that Westwood's been left behind? Where's the money going, and how's it being spent, and so on and so forth, so that we can say, no, Westwood's not left behind. They have problems, and we're addressing it. We have the support staff.
So in terms of the role of the Academic Achievement Committee is looking at the academic data and looking at how this committee and the board can address the issues of academic achievement, which would include issues of equity.
Yeah.
Secondly, though, there is the broad equity discussion, which looks at hiring a large variety of practices, not just academic achievement. That's something that I think that should be a request that goes to the president of the board to be discussed at either a work session
Well,
or.
we've had that before here, haven't we, John? Didn't we have this before? Somebody came and talked about equity. The Teresa Stone.
Yeah, I mean, the director of equity and inclusion
Yeah.
has come and reported on.
My memory of that is that's happened at our retreats, our board retreats.
No,
Yeah.
So-
no, John, we had her
Okay.
here at an academic committee
Yeah,
meeting.
there was, yeah, she did come. For me, it would be along those lines too, obviously, class size. So when we do look at the issues of
Equity.
college readiness, on the average, what does that look like? And then if some tweaking or other kinds of things would be appropriate, that the academic committee could at least say, hey, on the average, X amount of schools really have some issues of many students in classes, and so how do we, whatever choices need, or whatever responses need to happen there, that some leveraging could take place that would help in that, in terms of achievement and college readiness. So if some schools have 40 in a classroom,
Right.
what do we say about that? How do we respond to that, if in fact that is what it is, or whatever number?
And that's going to affect, if you've got that many kids in the classroom, it is going to affect discipline and behavior and so on. So, and obviously, those kinds of things are going to come into equity. Who gets kicked out of school? Is it true that?
So I'm just gonna this is gonna sound blunt, but what is the realm
I'm going
of
to
the?
get going.
I take this very seriously. I'm just suggesting, what is it that we can accomplish in the Academic Achievement Committee meetings? And I think that when we tackle third grade reading, we didn't just talk about lessons in third grade. So we talked about what the district is doing in preschool, what the district is doing in K, 1, 2. Class size seems to be an issue. That's something that I think that we can follow up individually with the superintendent. It's something that we should consider. It also has implications with the contract, et cetera. So I don't think that we can always deal with every issue in the Academic Achievement Committee meeting. If we talk about college readiness, I think that if we delve into what's happening with the math scores, we're not going to be talking about junior 11th grade math classes. We're going to be talking about what's happening in middle school. And so if we're going to make an improvement into college readiness when it comes to the SAT score, then we're going to have to delve deeper. And I trust that we're going to get deeper into those things. And if we discover that kids have a hard time learning math in middle school because of what's happening at Westwood, then we are dealing with Westwood, because we're dealing with with 11th grade SAT scores. So that's what I think that as an Academic Achievement Committee meeting, we can use this.
What we kind of need to know is how each building that's, like, I guess it's starting in middle school, 7th grade starts with the PSAT or the SAT or something. Is it 7th or 8th?
PSAT begins in 8th grade.
8th grade, okay. So we're looking at that data from Westwood to Museum to UPrep and that kind of stuff, and see, then we can.
That would be a way to, if we determine that that's the way to get at understanding improvements.
And I think you're right, Tony, that it'll show other areas that need to be addressed.
Right.
And then the expectation is that our cabinet members and team are going to look at those pieces and bring us information back to say, hey, we looked at the data and we saw that we have an X amount of classes that are oversized or whatever, and then continue to build on that stuff. So.
Right, and so then but our goal is to improve, is to figure out what the board needs to do to improve 11th grade math scores on the SAT, not at the kind of other kinds of factors.
No, not just at
Yeah.
Westwood, no, I don't.
But I would
think
also
that.
say, though, is that to go to some of your questions, I think that we do need to be, as individual board members, we need to have conversations with the superintendent.
Right.
On issues too. So, some of the questions that you're raising, I think that you should feel comfortable emailing the superintendent to talk to about that, to get at especially the specifics. If you're hearing concerns about a particular school and what's happening at a particular school, you should contact the superintendent. You've had that conversation. And that does get back to this Academic Achievement Committee meeting, all right? So we've asked especially, what's happening at Alger. So that came to the
Right,
committee,
right.
but it came to the committee in a different way. So in relationship to our December meeting around college readiness, the other thing is that we've had conversations about Algebra 2, so I think that that's something that we have
I'm
to
sorry,
discuss.
what?
Algebra 2,
Mhm.
so we have to bring
The
that to
state is
discuss.
thinking about moving away from it,
Right,
Yeah,
yeah.
and
So,
offering it.
and I would like to know what impact that will have on those college readiness numbers. So if we don't require students to take Algebra 2, is it going to be less likely that our students are going to pass that test? So, and the other thing is will 10th graders be deciding whether or not they want to go to college based on whether or not they want to take Algebra 2 in 11th grade, which most of them won't want to do. So,
The 11th grade is the decision year?
Yeah.
That's when they take.
well, that's when they would take Algebra 2. So we can't put 16-year-olds in a position of, so I want to know what impact will that have, you know? And because the board can make other decisions,
Right.
even if the state doesn't,
Right,
so.
exactly.
So if you're taking these things like in the 8th grade, then you have to decide in the 10th grade whether or not you're going to take Algebra 2.
Right.
Okay.
But if that becomes a decision as to whether or not I can get into college, we're kind of.
I understand.
Yeah,
We
it's
talked
a,
about that before, yeah.
so. Okay, we'll finalize things when we meet with, I think that meeting got rescheduled
I think the one on Monday is rescheduled.
to the following Monday,
We'll
maybe.
follow up with Julie on that.
Okay.
When's our next meeting?
Our meetings are now the first Wednesday of every month.
First Wednesday of every month. Okay.
And that really just means December and probably January, because it could change in January. All right, meeting is adjourned.
Thank you.
Good discussion.